Hey everybody, I want to talk just a little bit about Module 4 in the Community Risk Reduction course. Kind of want to explain, I hate these headphones by the way, but they're the only ones that work with this computer. I want to kind of, hopefully you're beginning to see where we're going with this. We started in Module 1 with our overall community risk assessment. This is, and this is where the community risk reduction is set apart from just doing, general fire safety education or fire prevention or whatever, in that it becomes very targeted and focused. So we started with our community risk reduction, and we looked at the people and we looked at the problems, and we decided, we did our matrix, high-low, Gordon Graham kind of a thing, and we looked at a particular risk issue in our communities. It could be our community, it could be in our station district for those of you that are in large areas. And so then we established a goal. What do we want to do with this? What is our vision? What is our goal? A vision might be, an injury-free environment for people to live in. And then our goal addresses that specific issue. We want to lessen the impact of cooking fires. I don't know. I'm kind of pulling this out of my head in case you haven't noticed. So then we, in module that we kind of looked at that in module 2. We began to get this vision, this picture, this idea of what we wanted to do. In module 3, I believe, is when we really began to look at our strategy. So if we want to lessen the number of unattended cooking fires, decrease those, and thus decrease deaths and injuries, how are we going to do that? What are some ways that we can have an impact? These are the 5 E's. We talked about primary, secondary, tertiary means of doing that. So we began to develop some strategies and how we are going to implement these things as well. So if we're going to do, it's early. If we're going to look at unattended cooking fires, and one of our goals is education, or let's say in a particular housing area, we're going to do education of the tenants. How are we going to do that? We're going to put in the under the hood extinguishers. I call them range queens. I think they're called something else. That's one of those engineering aspects. What kind of enforcement pieces? What do we need for that? So we've got these ideas and we've got these implementation strategies. Well, now in module 4, we're beginning to look at how we're actually going to do that. How are we going? So we're whittling this down. We kind of took the skeleton before, I think, and I know I'm drawing in the air. We had the skeleton of this program or this project, and now we're fleshing it out. What do we need to accomplish this? And who's going to take care of that? And by what date? And I think that this is where kind of the rubber meets the road. So in module 4, it's how we're going to implement all the pieces of this program, not just education. Remember, we said that just wasn't enough. So we can't just say, I'm going to schedule classes at the school. We need to be more targeted and more focused on that. So how are we going to implement this? We want to look at, as I said, the different pieces of the program. So this is where we're going to come up with an action plan. And, we use this in a lot of different environments. Think about strategic planning. Those of you that have participated in that, you might do that SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So this is the same, a little bit of the same kind of thing, but the strategic planning that I've been a part of, you come up with this overall goal statement, whatever, and then you begin to whittle it down into the pieces, and that's what we're doing here. So you're going to begin to look at, well, what kind of resources do I need? And how am I going to find those? How am I going to identify those? What kind of schedule? And this is where the action plan, if you will review in this section, there's an excellent website that's out of the, University of Kansas, I believe. It's either University of Kansas or Kansas State, called the Community Toolbox. Anything you want to know about doing projects in the community is on that website. But it gives you information about what is an action plan. And it gives you some samples, but also it's very specific. It's, building this program up. We've got to have this by this date and this by this date, and Beverly's going to do this, and Billy's going to do this, and so-and-so's going to do this. So it's very specific. I've given you a couple of examples of an action plan template. You can just Google it online and find more. And that is your writing assignment for this module, is to complete that action plan. There's one on there that's a Google Doc, and people have trouble with that because it opens in Google Docs. And so you may want to figure out how to copy and paste that or cut and paste that if you want to use that one. There's another one if I find any more good ones. But at least you can create your own. That's no problem either. But it at least give you kind of that framework for what we're looking for in this action plan. And it's basically a step-by-step of what you're going to do to make this more effective. So that is your writing assignment for Module 4. Your discussion, let's see, we want you to, in the discussion for this area, I believe most people have probably gotten there. Choose the topic, why you chose the topic, the details of your plan. I know I looked at some of those, and most of you are on that. Again, I put a note on the course site. I apologize for being late about getting this to you. I've extended that deadline. So this is where we're really honing in on doing it. Doing our plan, it's not a dream anymore. It's nothing on paper, but this is the step by step of how we're going to implement this. And even though you may not be in a position to implement right now in your department, or you may not have a department to implement in, think about, you may say, just pick a date, pick a target date, 6 months from now. And then back all your plans up in that 6 months. So, you can use fictitious dates, I guess is what I want to say, recognizing that you may not be doing this. But don't, the other thing you don't want to do is you've got to make sure you give yourself plenty of time. If we're going to do things and we're going to do things right, we have to make sure we give ourselves time. But you don't want to give yourself 3 years from now might not be a good time. You might need to do it a little sooner than that. So that's your writing assignment for this time. We're talking about actually doing this plan, putting this plan into action. And then in Module 5, we're going to look at how are we going to evaluate? How are we going to know if we're meeting our plan, of our action plan? How are we going to know if we're meeting our goals? And how are we going to know if we were successful? And so I'm going to do another little video on Module 5. So you can see how we're kind of bringing all the pieces and parts together. Make sure that you look at that, the text, that's the online textbook. Again, I have my computer here to the side. I'm trying to, that public, I can't remember the title of it. It's Public Fire Prevention Planning, something like that. The FEMA downloadable book. Make sure that you look at that because it's going to give you some good information in there. I'm going to get the name of that book right here. Public Fire Education Planning, a 5-step process. And if you get the title, we're like at step 4 here, and then we're going to be doing step 5. So keep in mind too that all of these things are going to come together in your final project. So you need to submit an overall plan based upon the instructions in there. We'll talk about that later, but you don't really have to it's going to just be a matter of putting it together because you've pretty much done everything as long as you've kept up with your writing assignment. So if you have any questions about this, let me know. Again, I apologize for the lateness of this, but again, and I know that I've had several conversations with some of you about this. It's a little tough because there's no book. And I would love to remedy that in my spare time, of which I don't have any, but I'm working on it. So just do the best you can. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks so much for your time.